I'm going to present you about CADRI and what CADRI is doing. CADRI stands for Capacity for Disaster Risk Initiative. And CADRI is made of, it's a joint initiative of UNDP, OCHA, and ISDR. So the idea was to regroup our resources and to see how we can support UN country offices and how we can support governments, local organizations, down to the community level on disaster risk reduction. The main objective of CADRI is to advance knowledge and practice for the development of sustainable disaster risk reduction capacities. The target group, like I mentioned, the entire ISDR system. You have governments, all types of institutions involved in DRR at global, regional, national level. And of course the United Nations country teams, especially on building the capacity of the country teams so that they can support governments implement disaster risk reduction programs. Now, for the last 3 to 4 years that we've been active at field level, there are a few issues that we have identified. When we talk about disaster risk reduction, most of our assessment, the work that we're doing at country level, we tend to see that people still perceive disaster risk reduction as disaster response. People are still focusing on the discussion on the response side, whereas we're trying to get them to think more of long-term work on how to reduce risk. So there is a need to really work in supporting people to have more and more this shift of mindset and moving from disaster response, but also taking into consideration a long-term work on reducing risk. Another problem that we see often in terms of capacities are weaknesses in terms of strategic planning. Now,
interesting, many organizations have projects, 1-year projects, 2-year projects, 3-year projects. They are short-term projects. The problem is that often these projects are not linked to any national strategy on disaster risk reduction. So therefore you start questioning the sustainability of many of these projects. So we're trying to help governments to conduct proper risk assessments, and then based on risk assessments to try to conduct a proper capacity assessment and to draft proper national strategies and programs. Another issue where this is important is that you have many national platforms that are still trying to find out why do they really exist, what should they be doing. And we feel that having a national strategy can be one of the key elements that will serve national platforms really advocate and follow up the implementation of DRR at national level. Challenges is we just mentioned it in the previous group, challenges in mainstreaming DRR into planning processes. What does DRR mean into what I do? How do I mainstream DRR on what I do exactly and my different plans? And here we're talking, for example, with different sectors of the economy. What does DRR mean in agriculture? What does DRR mean in the water sector? Even in tourism. So there is a need to provide further support in this area. We still have challenges in terms of capacities at national level for preparedness and recovery. People think a lot about response, but the recovery side is still quite weak. Now, what we also realize that there are many regional organizations. In Africa, you have, for example, ECOWAS, ICAS, SADC, but you also have ASEAN, you have CEPREDENAC, you have many regional organizations that we feel we have to build up their capacity so that they can be better placed to provide technical services to their member states. So we are already engaging in working with these regional organizations. Now, these are just one of the, a few of the main challenges that we find in terms of capacities at country level. Now, what do we offer? Advisory services, looking at various programs that are already ongoing to see how we can better look at capacity development issues within these programs. Risk assessments, capacity assessments for disaster risk reduction, helping the countries to also draft their national strategies for disaster risk reduction. Tools development, material adaptation. What we're trying to do is not to reinvent the wheel. There are a lot of tools that exist for disaster risk reduction, for capacity development. Now the issue is, which tools are suitable for which country, for which region. So we're trying to map out the tools that already exist. And when we find gaps where there are certain tools that do not exist, then we engage in developing tools for the different clients that we have that send us this request. But the idea is really to map out what exists and to often tailor-made also to the client so that the tool fits its needs. We do conduct a lot of training and facilitating trainings and workshops, but most of the people, when we talk about capacity development, a lot of people think about training, but training is not, it's just only one little part of the whole work that we do in capacity development. Fourth area, knowledge exchange, networking, facilitating South-South cooperation also, knowing where are the institutions, where are the people who have a certain level of knowledge, and where are the needs in other places, and how can we link up these two so that they can exchange their knowledge and exchange their experiences. In terms of trainings, for example, in different modules that we offer in different countries, we offer overview courses in DRR. For example, making at highest level national authorities better understand what do we mean by risk reduction. Not trying to somehow get them to get away from this thinking that DRR is disaster response, but to understand the whole scope of activities that you need in terms of disaster risk reduction. We have recently, as part of the ISDR campaign for safer cities, developed a one-day module for local governments, especially targeting mayors, to discuss with mayors what do we mean by disaster risk reduction, what do we mean by urban risk, and how you could implement the 10 essentials as defined by the ISDR within the campaign. We have various tools for mainstreaming disaster risk reduction into development. However, what is coming now in a couple of weeks' time is, I think, an important tool, which is mainstreaming in an integrated manner disaster risk reduction, climate change, and environmental sustainability. How do you use these three elements and in a kind of integrated manner mainstream it into your various planning activities? Risk assessment tools, we have been working with GRIP. GRIP has a lot of tools, but now we're compiling these tools to come up with about 5 different training packages. We just completed the recovery tool, including PDNA, post-disaster needs assessment. We also have the tool from the International Recovery Platform. Various tools for preparedness that we have been working together with OCHA on, so we're providing a lot of training in terms of disaster preparedness also. New tools that we have now, climate risk management, DRR in environment, DRR in ecosystems. Now, CADRI is the successor of the former disaster management training program of the UN that used to have about 28 modules, and it's been a program going on for 16 years. So there's a lot of good thing in those modules, and we have been requested by many governments to continue running these programs. But they are old, and now we're working on reviewing all these modules to update all the case studies, the content with the all humanitarian policies and so on. So there is a lot of demand for these modules. And like I say, we continue to develop different types of trainings according to the different clients. For example, at the moment we're working with WFP to see what does DRR mean for WFP in WFP programming. So that was, I think, one of the slides is gone, was just to thank you. So it was a short presentation on, here it is. So this was just a nutshell on what we do. We have a publication that we have just recently come out with the basics of capacity development and disaster risk reduction. And you will find behind the document, we have our web pages address there, email address. And for all kinds of requests of supports on training, on capacity development issues, please feel free to contact us. And we are here for the whole ISDR system and to cater for everyone. It's not only for UN or governments, for NGOs, for whoever need to get support in terms of trainings, materials, tools, but also advisory services in capacity development. Absolutely feel free, and it's free. Yes? So.
My name is Perik, coming from Sweden. Do you have any kind of programs where you have multinational dimension or bilateral? So certain countries go in and work together. developing each other instead of having them doing very scrutinized themselves.
Okay, thanks for the question. And as you mentioned, you're from Sweden. Huh? I can already take an example from Sweden. We have been in close collaboration working with MSB, the emergency services in Sweden, as part of our program, because we are 10 people in Kadri. We cannot cover the whole world. So we've been linking Sweden, for example, with SADC, with the South African Development Economical Region there. And now they are working together because there's a lot of knowledge, lot of technical know-how within MSB. So we're linking both of them together, and we're participating for some of the activities, but for the implementation stage, it's a whole collaboration between SADC and MSB. So one of the things that we do is that we try to identify organizations that have certain capacities and to link them with governments, because once they have their national strategies, it's for 7 to 10 years. So you need to have institutions that can accompany them for 5, 6, 7 years, and not maybe us who are there for 3 years, 4 years, then we change places. So these long-term linkages and commitment and collaboration is very important. It's one of the key issues that we're developing in terms of the networking side. Thank you.